I welcome in everyone today. Welcome to our podcast today with Brand the Source. This is Coach EJ, known as Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron Thigpen, the Source. Today, guys, we've got a guest here. I guess we might want to call this series Parents Take, where we're going to be talking to some of the parents of our athletes and just getting, a parent's perspective on their experience in youth sports and the trials and tribulations and trying to figure things out on how they're navigating it. And, hopefully I know there will be some words of wisdom and some words of caution and all of those sorts of things from the guests that we bring on. Today I wanted to bring on Jason Matthews. He's one of our athletes' parents. His son's name is Kai. Kai has actually been an athlete of mine for going on, I think, 3 years now, at least 2 years. Yeah. And Kai is now 13?
13 years old, yes.
13 years old, baseball player, very good athlete. And we just want to talk today about, that journey of Kai's and from the parents' perspective. Jason also is a brother in the podcast arena. He has a podcast. I'd like for you to just give us a quick shout out about your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast's name is Cream. It's called the Cream Podcast. For cash rules everything around me. It's just a fun, easy way to learn about money and finance and what's happening in the world. You can catch it on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, or Google, or wherever way you listen to your podcast.
Guys, I really suggest that you check it out. It's really informative. I listened to it, especially if you guys happen to be Wu-Tang fans.
Right.
So you'll like the Wu-Tang connection. Some of you guys might know by the name that's a Wu-Tang reference.
Yes.
But, let's get started. Jace, tell us a little bit about Kai.
So Kai, my son is 13 years old, baseball player. He plays for Show California. He loves the game of baseball. And he's just really enthusiastic athlete who's just really learning the game of baseball, got a little bit of talent, and we're just trying to put the right skills together for him to reach his dreams right now. But real social leader, I would say, on the field. People love to be around him. He connects with people really well. So that's how I would definitely connect with him.
Well, I want to start it off with this because I've been thinking about this for, we've talked about putting this podcast together for a while. And this was one of the things that's really kind of been burning in my mind. I think there's critical points in an athlete's career where they've got to make transitions. And I think the first transition is from middle school to high school. The next transition is from high school to college and college to pros. And we've talked about this in some of our other podcasts. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on, because Kai is at that point where he's making that transition from middle school player to now his first year high school. And he's at Bishop O'Dowd, correct?
No. He still has one more year of high school. So right now he's right now he's 8th grade. Next year he'll be in high school.
Okay, so he's approaching that critical transition. I think a lot of athletes and parents kind of take that for granted. And I always say that there's levels to sports, and there's certain benchmarks where there's got to be a pointed change in your mentality, your physicality, your technical aspect of how you play the sport. All those things, there's certain bridges that you cross where you have to make that jump. And because the competition gets stiffer, the commitments get right. Bigger, all of those things. And I think that's where, he's approaching that point. And I just kind of wanted to get, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing out there in the world is you're starting to see water separate from oil, you will say, where you have certain kids who might have been the bigger kid just naturally growing up, who are now hit that point where they're stagnated, while you have the kid who's more of the serious athlete, who's trying to accomplish more, who's starting to put in more work, more effort, doing things besides just showing up for practice, but doing more things individually, might do things not just on the basketball court or baseball field, but more in the gym and other things. So you're seeing that separation of who's going to be that guy and who's just out here just trying to have fun, and just knowing that high school is going to be it, and I'm going to go and live my life, or if I'm going to play high school, just doing it for fun, and I'm not really just taking it to that next level. And we're starting to see that more and more as we're approaching, because with his age, a lot of his friends are freshmen now in high school because his birthday's in December, while he still has some friends in 8th grade. But you were seeing that from the kids who was a lot bigger than him or a lot more athletic than him at 9 years old or 10 years old, especially because my son was a short, thick kid at the time. You wouldn't tell now, but he was a kid where I thought he'd probably just be at first base. But he definitely had a transition out of that, and you can tell he's more of a serious athlete as far as what he wants to accomplish, as far as this is just something for fun or is that actually a dream for him.
Well, I have a question for you, Jason, and it's kind of funny because I've watched Kai and I know Kai, and I saw Kai. Aaron, it's funny because I watched Kai play. We played against Kai last year, and I watch him in the gym all the time, man. He gets after it all the time. And I watched him last year and I see him now and I go, wow, that's just in a year. Look at the work he's put in. And Aaron, he's been with you for like 3 years previously. And Jason, you hit something on that really resonated with me, is the fact that you've got those guys that are water and oil, and those guys who are serious to get in high school. If they haven't done, here's my take on this whole thing, guys. If they haven't done anything prior to high school, they're behind the 8 ball. When they're behind the 8 ball? Not their freshman year. It's their sophomore year when they got to make JV or varsity. That's when they're behind the 8 ball. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. It's like the first year you can get away with it. Big roster, 25, 30 guys. You can fit in, but all of a sudden, you get a little bit more serious, a little bit better competition. And if you haven't done anything prior to that, prior to getting into high school, I think you're really behind. I think Kai's a testament, Aaron, the fact that, he went into the gym, and Jason, that you sought out Aaron and did that, man, because I agree with you, Jason. I'm starting to see more of that now, being somebody that owns a club and goes out there and does that. I see a lot in the game of baseball, Aaron.
Well, there are two things that he mentioned that I basically broke my neck nodding in agreement.
Right.
And one is I think it's a decision point. He said, hey, you start to separate from your friends. You have to start to make these decisions on, okay, am I going to get extra training? Am I going to do work outside of my baseball practices? Am I going to make this commitment because of the choice that I want to be a collegiate athlete? So I think there's a mental transition that has to take place. I talk to parents all the time when I have middle schoolers going to high school. I said, yeah, one of the big things is their method of operation has to change if they don't have those habits in place before, because again, just because of the commitment, the volume, the intensity, and the expectations. And that's a mental transition I think parents need to get their athletes for. There's only so much you can do about the physical. You can only put so much weight on your kid. You can only make them so much stronger. Some of that you just got to wait for Mother Nature to make a visit. But turning that switch is a mental decision, and that's a choice. And the other thing that the other word that he used that I really like all the time, and me and EJ talk about this, is there's got to be a degree of separation. And in other words, you've got to be the dude. You got to be the man amongst boys. You've always got to separate yourself from the pack in terms of your abilities, your play, all of those things. Otherwise, you're just another also-ran, and there's hundreds of thousands of those kids. And you need to have that mentality about, hey, my abilities have to separate me from everyone else on the field for me to be able to get the opportunities to move on. Because it's like pouring all those kids through a strainer. Only some of them are going to get through, and that filter gets tighter and tighter. And so I think separation is a great word to use when you're talking about athletes and their abilities, and if they thought they're good enough. I always ask an athlete, hey, what's your degree of separation between you and every other athlete on your team, between your competitors, countywide, statewide, all of that. So I love that you mentioned those two things. Here's something I want to talk to you about. What has been probably the most unexpected or frustrating thing thus far in your journey with Kai and youth sports?
The most frustrating thing, I would say, is the whole thing about travel ball and making sure you don't keep up with the Joneses, because you'll be in this world and everybody saying you do this, or this is the hottest team, or you should do that. And I think the most frustrating thing is making sure you don't keep up with the Joneses, because people instigate to you about something, make you quit a team, and they are there because they're really parents. I noticed. Let me reverse back. I think parents have a lot of egos when it comes to this travel ball baseball. And I think oftentimes that's the worst thing, is they will ruin the game of baseball, they ruin the teams, they ruin kids, because their ego's so big that they think their kids is the most shiniest thing, and everything that might come closer there, they might hate on it. And they don't want the competition, or they bring additional drama, which I hate, which I wish they did not do so much in this game of baseball and travel ball. I think everybody, parents for the most part, should just sit back, enjoy the beer at the games, and just let the kids just play and just let it be. That's just my opinion at the end of the day.
I'm gonna tell you a story, man, because Aaron's over there shaking, going, "Yeah, I'm sure." We're laughing because we talk about this every day or all day. I come in there, Aaron, guess what? But what I'm gonna say is, Herman Edwards. I learned this like 30 years ago. Herman Edwards said this one thing. He said, "Players play, coaches coach, and parents watch." And I brought that in our club when we started EJ Sports, Suzette and I, and we just said, "Hey, listen, parents, sit in the stands, enjoy your kids, because they only grow up one time. 2, you have us here to coach you, let us coach, and from there, enjoy the experience. You only have one shot at this, or 2 shots, or 3 shots, depending on your kids." It's a problem, Aaron and Jason, in our industry. It's the game's being ruined by keeping up with the Joneses, not understanding the process. And Aaron and I say it in our podcast all the time about all these things, about the process, staying in it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Man, I can't agree with you enough. As I watch and I go out this is my 18th year going out with the club. And I watch things every week, and whether it's a tournament or games, and I try to really play like-minded people now, because I'm so frustrated with the fact that people act the way they act. It's for the kids. Look, we're out here for the kids. At the end of the day, we're here to help young people become better people. At the end of the day, that's what this is about. And I couldn't agree with you more, and we need to clean it up. Aaron, what are your thoughts about that, man? I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I get it, because I get the phone call, and it's not just in baseball. It's, hey, I've got my 10-year-old, he plays on an elite soccer team, and
number one in the country, or number one in the state.
Yeah.
Rankings.
Yeah. And they're ranked this and ranked that. And it's just like, oh God, who's going to remember the US 9-year-old World Cup, in a few years. It's a great accomplishment. I'm not trying to downplay that stuff, and it's great for the kids. But you know what? I tell a story all the time. There will be a kid at some point who will never have touched a soccer ball, picked up a baseball bat, other than playing wiffle ball out on the street, and all of a sudden come and take your kids' lunch.
Take the kids' lunch.
That's Tim Anderson, and from the Chicago White Sox. He was a basketball player from Tuscaloosa, Alabama,
yes,
which is the mecca of college football. And now look at him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so you got to take this stuff with a grain of salt. Yes, you want to give your kid every opportunity. You want to give them the proper training. You want to give them the proper foundation. And I think that's the key. You want to give them the proper physical, mental, and perspective foundation of their participation in sports. And to just, say, okay, because my kid is great at 9 means he's going to be great at 18 is not the case. There's so many different factors. And, it's like me being in the business that I'm in, you get people who maybe don't understand sports, don't understand training, and they always say, well, how long will it take for them to get faster? Like there's a formula, and part of it's my industry's fault, because they'll say, oh yeah, we can, guarantee this, or in 8 lessons, they're going to be able to do this. And that's BS. That's just all marketing. We're dealing with people. People are different. They move at different paces. And all I can tell parents is, there are no guarantees, but you can heighten the probabilities, and you can heighten the probability for success by doing all the right things you would in any other arena. Being prepared, being committed, being diligent, finding the right professionals to work with, creating the right environment. That's how you heighten the probability. But in terms of guarantees, again, I've seen kids in track and field come out and the only pair of shoes they own are, some beat up high tops, and blaze up everybody else down the track that's been, who's got the pristine Nike Flies, and, so you just don't know. You just don't know. But yeah, that is interesting, and I think parents should just, it's perspective. Everything is perspective.
Yeah, you're right about that. Everything is about perspective. And the problem I think with your industry, not that you use sports side, but just in health issue, is the infomercial, right? Yeah. I get the perfect ass by just eating whatever I want, right, and then do after 10 minutes a day for a month, I got the perfect six-pack.
Yeah.
And we had this surgery, or people now doing all these different surgeries.
Yeah.
We're in a microwave society where people want quick fixes, and right, we forget everything's a freaking process. Yeah. And we forget when it comes to baseball, the hardest thing in sports is hitting a freaking baseball. And that's why I love having my son play baseball. And I want him to play baseball first. He would always get recruited to play football. But the reason I wanted to have him play baseball was that the challenges of playing baseball. How do you struggle when your bat's not hitting well? What's your attitude? How can you stay determined? How you control your temper? And how do you deal with failure? Especially being an African American child, where he might have more challenges than the next person growing up. I want him to play a sport where, I've been through challenges. I know how to overcome them. I know how I'm supposed to react. I don't want him to play football where if I'm mad, I just hit somebody with aggression next play. I want him to play a sport where you take a deep breath, figure out what you did wrong, and to make those adjustments. And that's the beauty of learning the game of baseball, is you learning how to make adjustments, not through just being emotional and getting frustrated and just hitting somebody, but really taking a apply, like what part of my technique did I didn't do? Maybe I rolled over. Next time I need to do this, or maybe I didn't do that. And thinking instead of just reacting, which I think is the beauty of the game of baseball, and the learning and the lessons of baseball that people just don't truly appreciate. When this whole process is harder than hitting a golf ball. You hear all these old guys play golf for the last 40 years and still haven't hit a perfect golf ball. But yet we expect kids at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 to always have guaranteed success all the time, which I don't think is realistic or true.
Yep. That's a point. You know what that is? Hey, Aaron, you know what that is?
Down, man.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Mic drop, man. On that
better.
one.
Couldn't have said it better, man. That's why you're on here, man. That's why you're on here.
I
love that. Great comment. Great comment. And
you know what?
You should take that to heart.
You know what, Aaron, me and Jason, I always say this. Baseball is a microcosm of your life. It really is. I find out the true characters behind young people by how they act on the baseball field. And Jason, you couldn't have said it any different or any more when you said, hey, you struggle, you deal with it, you gotta know how to navigate it.
it is a microcosm of your life, and what a great sport to put your kid into, to understand that. And you have such a good perspective on it, Jason, that you're trying to teach Kai how to be a young man, how to be a young adult, and how to handle things. And that says a lot right there, Aaron, I tell you that.
Yeah.
Jace, I have a question. This is a little bit lighter top subject, but what would be the top 3 to 5 tourneys that you guys have experienced, and maybe why would you pick those, and what's maybe the value of going to those tourneys? Just, it could be for a competition, it could be for just the baseball experience, you know, because again, you're a very insightful guy, because you're looking beyond just, you know, batting averages and velocities and what your son should be getting out of this sport. So, you know, if you were to pick your top 3 to 5 tourneys or baseball, you know,
He's shaking his head already. I know it.
what would those be?
I'd say number 1 is, we just came back from North Carolina, so we did the USA baseball in North Carolina. I'd say that's number 1 since it's fresh in my mind. The reason why we did that is I just want to see, where is that bar of competition? Like, where does he stack?
Right on.
Right? And so that's why we did that, just to see, not to say we're going to make the USA baseball team,
Right.
but where do we stack, and where we're going, and
Right.
where those gaps at? And
Right. What work do you need to do?
yeah, what work we need to do. I
Love
see that's a gap that we have. Number 2 tournament that we did, we've done some tournaments, but I see parents going all over the world, and we haven't done that. We always do an annual trip to USSSA World Series down in SoCal, and that's a great one for us because, one, we play great competition, right? SoCal's the mecca of youth baseball in the country, I would say, over Georgia, over Florida. I'm sorry to tell that to everybody else in the South. I want to say the West Coast has the best youth baseball in the country. But one is, we play great competition. He has a great time with his friends. We meet great people from all over the country, because you have people from Hawaii, Utah go to that tournament. So that's always our number 2. And then number 3, that's tough.
It's tough out there.
And maybe just from the baseball experience, like, you know, you have a lot of people who talk about Cooperstown. You have people who talk about the Hank Aaron tournament. You know, again, maybe just from a cultural standpoint, culturally, you know, for African American, culturally for the sport of baseball, you know, what might be one of those things that, hey, you know what, this is gonna be a great memory for my son.
Yeah, for us, I want to do the Hank Aaron. I'm looking forward. Like, I seen. So a couple weeks ago, a lot of people don't know, the Hank Aaron Classic was on, which is the top African American and minority baseball players in the country.
Wow.
And you probably had a number of them in the Bay Area, which is really cool. And I would say it might be the top viewership show at MLB Network. I should look into it, because I know everybody was watching it dial in, and I don't think people watch MLB Network as much as they did that day. But for my son, he saw kids that he knew, he looked up to, playing in Atlanta, playing the game, and seeing the best competition, and seeing people who look like him. And that's one experience where we want to do within the next 3 or 4 years, whenever they call us to do it. And it's ran by MLB Network, and that's the one I'm super excited about, is that, and then also area codes. I hope he's good enough to play area codes. One of your past speakers was just at area codes. My son looks up to him. He goes to game feed. Now I think my son wants to do those. Those are like the ones, area codes and Hank Aaron, we really want to do. We're really excited about doing it if we have the possibility and everything runs its course and we're there. I think that'd be great.
Hey, Aaron, he hitting the ones I like. You know, he hit the USA Baseball 1, North Carolina, NTIS, National Team Identification Series, which I'm a part of also. But I will say this, is that you have the right attitude. You go back there to see what the bar is and to have a great experience and see what's out there. I love that. And then you talk about Hank Aaron. That's outstanding, because you have people like Ken Griffey Jr., Jerry Emanuel, all these great like mentors that can mentor people that look like them, number one. And then the third thing, what was your third tournament was the
USSSA World Series, SoCal. I think that's always been good at the youth level. Yeah. I see between 9 and 12. That's probably one of the great tournaments to be in between ages 9 and 12.
So Aaron, he's hitting all the right ones. You got area code 2, which is I think a good experience for the kids to go out and do, because that raises the bar in your area. That you get to see, hey, what's out there in Northern California? Who are these guys I've read about or heard on Instagram? I shouldn't say read about. I should say on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter. What's going on there? Aaron, he's hit all the ones that that I think are really cool. And there's a process. And I'm gonna go back to this again because Aaron and I always talk about the process. Man, Jay, you're involved in the process, man, because that's where you need to be. And a lot of people out there, if you're listening today, listen to this man. He's talking about the process. He's not talking about chasing trophies. Not talking about I gotta go to this tournament. He's talking about working. He's talking about heighten his probability of getting better. So awesome, man. Aaron, we got a treat here today, man. This is great talking to him.
EJ, just to kind of go off on a tangent here a little bit. EJ mentioned something that's pretty always interesting to me, and maybe a little bit of an annoyance because I'm kind of old school. But he mentioned the whole social media aspect, and obviously you're versed in social media because of your involvement with your podcast. What is your take on the whole kids and social media and the kind of self-promotion? Now, again, maybe I'm just, one of those old guys who just doesn't get it. But, you see, like you said, the TikToks, the Instagrams, and, all these highlights of kids. And I'm sure it's not just the kids pushing it, but also the parents. I don't know. Give me your perspective on it.
Overall, I hate it. It's crazy. So my son does have he has the Instagram page. I'm the one who probably posts on it when we go to a trip. But some people make it life. Where I was talking to this mom in North Carolina, or she was in the same hotel we was at, but she was a hairdresser for a wedding at the hotel we just were at. And I said, I feel like some parents are so involved with their kids because they have no other hobbies outside their kid. So that's why they post every single thing. And I have my own goals, my own dreams in life, and so I'm not there. One, I hate TikTok. I think all these kids are stuck on TikTok, and I think it makes us dumb down, stupid, and so on and so forth overall as a society. And I don't think it's good. Also, I'm not a big fan of it because the good thing about my son and where we at is my son is, like I said, he's a real social guy. He connects with a lot of people. And he saw a lot of the kids who are older. And he's seen that a lot of kids who are older are getting more, instead of it being a positive, they're probably getting more trouble with social media than they're not. Where they say something stupid, they act stupid. And I think the problem with social media right now is it does not allow kids to make mistakes like we did as a kid, because everything they're posting is on there. Because kids, we know their brains don't fully develop until they're 2024, and so they know where they're going to do some dumb things. But if you post all your dumb stuff on there, you look bad. I hate also that parents are just so consumed posting every single little thing about every single thing positive for the kid, but they won't tell you the negative on there. Yeah. Which I think we have to go with the pros and the cons, right? It's great that our kids did something on social media, but talk about the challenges that you face. Yeah. My son didn't do that against a bat, but only thing we posted is my son hit 2 bombs this weekend. Yeah, but he didn't tell us about those 10 strikeouts. Yeah. Right? Right? Or the ball went through his legs. I think there needs to be a balance. I just think right now we are out of balance as a society because we're getting too consumed by social media, especially our young people, where we need to tell them to get off of TikTok, get off of social media, and just keep grinding, keep working, and stop. Who cares what the next person doing? Be the best version of yourself. And that's just my view of it right now. Man. It kills me how much you see everybody on social media. I was at the airport, everybody's down. I said, look at your surroundings. There's a whole lot going on more than what you see on TikTok and everywhere else. And I don't know, man. As a society, we're getting overly consumed by it. That's just my view on social media.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, and I get a kick out of this, is if you go to every major league player and look on their Instagram page or their Twitter page, I don't know if you see 20% of the guys posting stuff. How about that one? No one really thinks about. Okay, so you got 20% of major league players posting stuff, and that's it. I mean, there's not a lot going on there. And then the person posting stuff is not them, because how are they doing the stuff and posting it? They're not doing that. They have somebody that does it for them. But I think Jason says something valuable, and I think be engaged and have fun with it, but don't let it rule your life, man.
See, too many people on there just 3 or 4 hours a day. Parents post every single moment. I just think it's just too much. That's just my personal opinion from it. I'm very old school. I'm young, but I think I'm very old school when it comes to things.
Hey,
and I just listen to
old school, man.
I don't have to say it. I got someone right here. Here's my proxy.
Exactly.
And I guess how I am just in life is I just I love to, and maybe because my father had me at an older age, is I just love listening to people who've been there, done that, and just do what they said. So the more reason I got with Aaron originally was Will Ash, Will Ash, Johnny Ash. If people don't know, the legendary Johnny Ash,
of course
went
you
to
do.
Stanford, and then was in the actual system. He said, "You need to go see Aaron because he's going to teach your son not how to run." And I was like, "Huh?" He said, "Yeah, he's going." He said, "Will said he's going to teach your son how to run." So that's why I went to Aaron, because I wanted my son to know the right technique. And then afterwards, I remember the off season when he told us that, and we came back. And I saw the difference where I started seeing kids who just pound the ground compared to being on their toes, who had the same body structure. But my son had that advantage of going to Aaron because of that. So I always just listen to people who've been there, done that. And I think one of the biggest challenges parents have is with baseball being you can have competition so close with each other, you don't know how to get your kids to the next level for as college or how Major League Baseball looks. So I think that's why oftentimes we have parents on social media, because a lot of times I think as parents we walk in the dark so much on how do we get our kids the exposure for the scholarship that we're prepaying for. I always say we prepay for scholarships, because after you pay for training, you pay for your travel ball, you already prepay for college. It's just you get better entertainment as a parent compared to your kids going off to college. You're not seeing what they're doing. Is that oftentimes though we're just walking in the dark as parents, where you don't know how to get your kids to area codes or how they're going to be seen or to that next level that I think all parents dream of the kids going to college, but they don't know what's the right route to do it. So we go by all these other people, and I think or social media, or we think social media is going to be the answer for our kids getting attention, that maybe Clemson University or West Virginia is going to see our kid and come out to a game or tell them to come out to a showcase or whatever. So that's one of those things.
And that's why we did the podcast, The Company You Keep. You've got to create an environment and an ecosystem. Just like if you're growing a plant, you want an environment, you want people who are going to nurture and do the right thing. And I always find myself, I tell my wife, I come home, I say, "And Nicole, I had to be Jackie Childs today." Because a parent comes in and we're training, and then all of a sudden they tell me they go and they do this other thing. Well, I had them, we saw this CrossFit video, and now I had them do 300 burpees and 100 push-ups, and I'm like Jackie Childs. Did I tell you to put on the bomb? You're doing too much. Yeah. You've got to surrender yourself to the professionals. You have to at some point if you want all of these things to work. And I think that's something that you've realized and are comfortable with. And I'm not saying surrender your athlete to people that you don't trust, you're not comfortable with. Find those people you are. Surrender.
Oh, you're so true, because there's always the latest coach. There's always the latest team, right? But and there's who's hot right now, and I think people always follow that. For instance, I hear people say, "Hey, you should go to this trainer, this trainer." I'm like, I'm okay. He has a person. We have a system. His record's impeccable as far as results. And I see other people going there, but I don't go where the rest of everybody else is in the red ocean. I always go towards the blue ocean a peer person who has experience and been there, done that, and not just to go by this fly-by-night, highest thing out thing. And I think as parents, is one thing I see a lot is, oh, this team's the hottest team. They got this kid, this kid, this kid. But I'm like, who is the coach? What's his background? What's his experience? And if so, what's wrong with where you're at right now? Are you not getting the coaching experience? Or does he have the coach and the team don't have the same values that you have? At the end of the day, what are you trying to accomplish by being on this team? And I just don't think people just reverse engineer what they're trying to accomplish in youth sports, period. And that's why we keep having people go team to team to team every time, or they get mad when the kid's on the bench for one game, not understanding what's the end results and the end game plan. Yes, you might switch teams. We have switched teams during the process, but it didn't happen because we didn't like the coach or something. Maybe coach got burnt out and wanted to take a break. Maybe went to this guy for this reason. I think, but I know the end in mind. I think as parents, we just going by what's hot because we hear other people saying it instead of reverse engineering, saying, what does it take for my child to get here, and what's the steps I need to take? And I'm just like every other parent, but this is what I'm just observing right now, is everybody's going by who's hot right now. Like the hottest tournament, the hottest coach of the day. Doesn't mean that he's a good coach. He just know how to recruit. And there's a difference between great coaches and recruiting, right? You know, and there's a formula for teams like that. You can, I always say in travel ball, especially at the youth level, not the high school level, you just have to have that one parent who know how to socialize, engage, and who know how to sell, and he can load up a team for you. The coach don't have to know how to coach. He just know how to recruit his butt off. Like, this is the greatest coach I've ever seen. Blah 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 blah. And parents like, oh. And they follow along with it, knowing that they were in a great situation before. You might not win no trophies, but who cares? Your kids learn the game. You should just stick with that person. So, and that person's going to get mad when the kid's on the bench because you're over there as well. So, who cares? So it's just the process. I think we just have to remember, reverse engineer what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. And I always say, well, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just trying to build my son to be a leader and a pillar of the community, and using baseball as an avenue for that. That's what I really want to accomplish.
Absolutely. Amen to that, Aaron. Amen to that. He gave you a breakdown of how the industry is and what his goals are for Kai. How cool is that? I love that, man.
I want to turn this around now. What are some questions for us? Do you have any questions for us? Because we've been grilling you this whole time. I mean, we talk all the time, but maybe do you have any questions for us or things that you'd like to ask us?
As parents, besides being the driver for our kids, driving around to practice, what are some 3 main skills that parents should have, or 3 things that parents should do to make sure their kids are in the best situation possible?
You want to go first, EJ, or you want me to go?
I'll start with this first one, and I'll let you riff on the rest. First thing is, whether you're at practice or at a game, when your kid gets in the car, don't ask them, how was it? Just say, hey, did you have fun today? And that's it. And let the conversation lead itself. Don't talk about the game. Don't talk about anything. Let your son or daughter talk to you first and let them lead the conversation. It will teach them how to socialize better.
Okay. So I'm gonna lead with this. Another podcast we did. It's called Home Training. Okay. I think parents obviously are probably the biggest influence on an athlete in terms of their their motivation, their emotions, how they handle all of the trials and tribulations in sports. So I think parents need to be strategic, not strategic in the sense of, okay, I'm going to get them the best bat and I'm going to get them the best shoes and I'm going to put them on the best team, but strategic in how you continue to develop your child emotionally and mentally. And you know what I mean by that is, I think parents need to teach their kids good communication skills. I think they need to teach their kids the value of commitment. And I think parents need to take the time to do their research. Understand that youth sports is a business now. So unless you're playing for the Y or some free league or something, It's a business. And I had this conversation with just 2 days ago. And my thing is, you've got to keep your eye on that North Star. What's your kid's North Star? What do they want to get out of this? And everything that you do should be taking a step and driving you and pointing you in that direction. Anything that you do that doesn't point your kid in that direction is not a service to your athlete. And if that athlete has that dream of playing college baseball or college basketball, then you've got to be strategic in helping make those decisions that are going to always take them. And you got to question, because that was the thing. She asked, do we play year round? How do we navigate this? We're caught on this whole merry-go-round where we can't get off, where they want us to do this and they want us to do that. Now, we got this practice 5 days a week, and now they want us to add this activity in. And you've got to find your no. You've got to be able to tell these people no at some point, especially if it's contrary to the goals and dreams of your athlete.
Last thing I'm going to mention after that, Aaron, is let your kid rest.
Yeah.
Let your kid rest during this during their plight or their commitment of playing sports. Let them have some downtime. Let them go out and be a kid. Let them not train, crazy and forget that they need to rest and they need to eat well and need to be mentally prepared to do all this.
How do you get your kid mentally prepared? I got off track for my son for his meditating. And I make sure he reads books, but how can we get our kids better mentally prepared for events? Is it something that we should be doing in the car? Is it more of making sure that we tell them to turn off the video games after night, making sure they get that 8-9 hours of sleep? If that's what it takes for them, what would you guys recommend?
I think that's going to be, individual specific, but you mentioned some good things. Yeah. Don't let them stay up late. Don't let them play video games, because that's a form of stimulation mentally that can still drain an athlete. You got physical energy and you have mental energy, and you only have so much. It's not limitless. It might seem like it with these young athletes, but it's not. And so I think anything that you can do to help your kid decompress, to teach them how to decompress, to teach them how to bring anxiety down, to teach them how to focus. All of those sorts of things are going to put them in better stead when they go to compete, because it's everyone just thinks, okay, well, I'm just going to try harder. And actually, I found the key to success in sports is not to try harder, but to relax and let it already happen, because it's already in the body. And sometimes you have to surrender to what your body already knows. The body's amazing, man. It's like a computer. If you program it, you don't have to do anything more, but everyone is always trying to do more. Okay, I'm going to try and run harder. I'm going to try and swing harder. And most of the time when you talk to successful athletes, they get in that flow state where they're almost detached. And I think that's a skill that needs to be practiced. In baseball, you call it slowing down the ball. Mm-hmm. Do you really practice slowing down the ball? Athletes don't.
Go ahead, Jason.
No, I was going to say, do you think people are trying to do harder, maybe because parents are trying to put that Mamba effect on their kids, where we have this romance about how Kobe Bryant worked hard. Yeah. Right, 4 practices a day, and because he just worked harder. Do you think a lot of parents are trying to put that Mamba effect on their kid? So now we're just trying to tell kids just work harder but not smarter?
You see it everywhere. I mean, it's on the Gatorade commercials, it's on the Nike commercials. Everything is about more is better. And no, quality is better. And that was the one thing that I learned when I made the transition from collegiate athlete to professional athlete, and this is what I actually told the woman a couple days ago. It's surprising the small amount of work that you have to do, at least to me, to be successful. But it doesn't mean you're not doing anything. It doesn't mean you're not doing little. But what it means is you're doing a higher quality of work. See, everyone just thinks more is better. For instance, you got a headache and you pull out your aspirin bottle. It says take 1. Well, you know what? If I take 2, that's going to be better. That's our mentality, you know? It's you quench your thirst. Well, okay, do I get a 16-ounce thing or do I get a 32-ounce big gulp? You know?
More is better.
Yeah, more is better. You know, supersize me. It's just part of our culture. And I'm a minimalist when it comes to training. And I'm like, I always say, what's the minimum effective dose? That's what I look at. What's the minimum effective dose? Then after you figure that out, you can move on to something else and add that into your program, or you don't go into diminishing returns, or you don't go into something that's going to hurt your athlete, i.e. doing 300 push-ups. In other words, if you don't have to put on the bomb, why are you putting on the bomb? You know, to quote Jackie Childs.
You know, Aaron, you know, you're not a minimalist. You're a smart tactician in what you're doing. And it's about being intelligent. You know, you said it when you moved from collegiate athlete to professional athlete. You know, you just got better at how you were going to go about the process. You became smarter with it. No different than I went from, you know, college to playing in the big leagues. It's like you understand what's going on. So I guess the message here is, parents out there, understand it's not more, it's the quality of your work. And find the professionals that can help you and have a true interest in your kid, that want to help you and not say, hey, come over, I get this program, more. No, be smart and intelligent about it.
Great points. Really good points about that. Yeah, I see that all the time right now, where even when I see videos where people, like you said, 300 push-ups or this thing, and I always wonder, especially with baseball, how does that apply to baseball?
Yeah.
Are you doing, I'm thinking of one drill in my head where I see somebody making the kids do something 20 times, not stopping, no breaks. But I'm like, how does that apply with baseball? Where baseball, you're like, then burst, you have a one burst. You're not doing 20 bursts at once like this. You're taking a break. They're usually doing a burst at that point. So that, and I see that, it's like, I don't know how that applies to the game, but that's your routine. I just haven't done it. So I don't know it, but I'm just looking at it. I just don't know how it applies to baseball. I can see how it applies to basketball, but I don't see how it applies to baseball. So great points.
Yeah, Make you tired. Make you tired.
And baseball to me always, and EJ, both of you guys have a lot more experience than me. And baseball to me is always the game of how you keep up with not having mental fatigue over physical fatigue, because you're doing the same pre-pitch 300 times, and that one time you slack off doing that one thing, is that when the ball gets hit you're not paying attention then, or you didn't do it, or your preparation, and then that's when you have a negative effect from it. Am I right? Or
Well, you're right. Absolutely, because it's a routine and people don't know how to take a break between pitches. See, like, you don't have to be focused and glued in at the batter the whole time. You go and you do your pre-pitch, bam, didn't happen. Catcher catches the ball, no one's on base. You can look away. You can look in the sky. You can say something to yourself. And then when it's time to go again, focus again. That's learning how to focus and when to take a break, and when to turn it back on. And people don't talk a lot about that. They just think, oh, where's your pre-pitch? You got to be engaged every second. No, you don't. If you do that, you're going to be off that one repetition when you just like, oh, I'm mentally tired. You're tiring yourself out. You got to understand there's a smart way to go about it. Aaron said it a second ago. It's being smart about what you do and how to do it, the process.
Yeah. And then things come automatic. And that's why it looks easy for professionals. Everyone can sit back and say, oh yeah, man, I can hit that guy that's sitting watching TV, armchair, and it looks easy because they're professionals, but it's not easy.
That's what makes them professional, right?
Exactly.
Professionals make things look easy. Barry Bonds made hitting in the water easy.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. But you got to realize how that sauce is made, and there's a lot of people selling ketchup. And and you know, the secret sauce isn't really a secret. It's just that people don't want to take the time that it takes to make it. So anyway, that's my cooking analogy for the show.
Love it. Love it.
No, it was great talking to you. AJ, is there anything you want to add? Jason, anything else you want to ask us? I know we've gone quite a while.
No,
We'll
this
definitely
is
have you back on. There's more to discuss. We definitely want to continue checking in on Kai's travels through, you know, this whole journey.
Right.
And I think this was great. I think it was great for parents to hear your voice besides ours.
No, it was great. I'm glad he actually has those questions. I'm always learning through this whole process. I know it's funny. I was talking to Cedric Henderson, and we were talking about. He said, "Think about it. You've only got 4 summers left." And I was like, "Wow, time flies." So
enjoy it.
So just enjoy it. And so this is a lot of great things. You guys got a lot of golden nuggets that I can definitely apply towards this journey with my son, and just making sure he could be the best version of himself. So I appreciate it.
Jason, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your insight.
All right, no problem. Thank you guys. I appreciate it
so much. So with that said, Aaron, you know, we're at that hour again, and just want to say, Jason, thanks for being our guest today. And this is Coach EJ Eric Johnson, known as The Brand.
And Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. We'll see ya.